everybody, Lisa A. Romano here, the Breakthrough Life Coach. And today I want to help people understand why it's so difficult for us to heal. And I get asked this question a lot by private clients and those in my coaching programs. And I just figured, I'm going to do a video and share some of my ideas with everybody. And hopefully they resonate with you. So a little bit of a backstory. When I was in my recovery, you can liken that very dark time in my life, although it was an amazing time in my life at the same time. I sort of felt like I was in a maze, but I didn't know that I was in a maze. I just kept going round and round and round, making the same mistakes, highly reactive, very depressed, full of anxiety, nervous, heart beating out of my chest, tunnel vision, panic disorder, you name it. They wanted to put me on medication. I tried it. I hated it. And I was just a mess. Like I was spiraling, stomach issues, just a mess. And I was really afraid that I was going to die. And what began to happen on the road to recovery was, as I began to understand codependency, narcissistic abuse, and alike, I began to understand, oh my God, I'm in a maze, because my mother did exactly what her mother did, minus the drinking. My grandmother was an alcoholic. But my mother was an enabler and a codependent, afraid of her husband, people pleaser, and all that. And I realized that I was in the same relationship with my ex-husband, and it frightened the crap out of me because I knew that the same thing was going to happen for my kids. Like if I didn't wake up, the same crap was going to happen for them. And so it set me out on this journey to break through and figure it out once and for all. And so looking back, right? So it's over 20 years now when I started to think there was something wrong with me and investigate. I was reading all sorts of self-help books, but I was always ended up feeling like something else was wrong. Something else was missing. And for me, the missing piece of the puzzle, I read books about forgiveness. I read books, you name it, I read it. But nothing really quite resonated with me to the point where it lasted. There was always something more, or I felt good. I read the Celestine Prophecy. I remember I just felt so good about being alive, and then I was like, right in a couple of weeks, I'm right back to where the hell I was. Read The Secret and all that, and again, I always ended up back in the same place, ricocheting back to the same place. For me, the breakthrough came when I began to think about life as a hologram, and how I realized that my grandmother had my mother and had me, and we were all just repeating these cycles, and then looking at my daughter and knowing she's going to do the same thing mommy did, or my son or my other daughter. And so just started realizing this place is a freaking hologram, the Matrix is for real, and that was like a major breakthrough for me, because it was at that point I could see the maze. At least I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get out, but at least I could see the maze. And that's when I just kept digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And the more I dug, the more painful it got. But I eventually realized that the only way through, out of the pain is through the pain. Is the only way. You can't leave anything unturned. Otherwise, you know what? You think you're doing good, and in 5 years, you're feeling crap all over again, right? Or you attract someone that you thought you'd never attract again. It's just, you see your kids repeating the cycle. So blah, 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 blah. What I began to realize was that, in hindsight, was that what was happening to me in my life, and I want to share it with all of you, is this idea that I was becoming aware that I was so much more, and that everybody on planet Earth was so much more than they thought they were. And I was getting out of my skull. I was getting out of the maze. I was learning to observe myself and observe my experiences. I was learning to be less reactive. I was learning to be less emotional, and I was learning to observe my emotions and make decisions based on how I felt. But that's the long and the short of it. But let me tell you something, it took a long time to be able to master that crap, because that took a long time to figure out. So I just want to share with you some ideas that I think might help a little bit, right? So we have to understand that we are multidimensional human beings. We are vibrational, in my opinion. We are physical, we are psychological, and put my notebook up here, my notes. We are unconscious as well as conscious. We have mass consciousness to contend with, right? We are definitely tapped into this mass consciousness, even though we don't think we are. We are emotional as well as logical. Lots of times when you come from a dysfunctional home, you're more emotional because you haven't healed yet, right? You're still in the reactive pattern trying to protect yourself from experiencing more injuries. So you're stuck, but you don't realize it. You have to understand that you have energy centers in your body as well as outside your body. So, and that there is no such thing as space. So you are a time traveler, even though you probably don't see yourself as one. We all are. And number 9, you are man, and I mean woman or man, okay? But you are also spiritual, or at least you're an extension of the God source that created everything. So you are not just this little girl whose mother was an alcoholic and stepfather sexually abused her. That's not the end of your story. You are not just the little boy who was abused by the priest in your church, and then was abused by the Boy Scout leader, and then attracted more abuse into your life, by an uncle or whatever. That's been your experience, but it's not your fault, and that's not the end of the story. You are so much more than that. We are not our dysfunctional relationships with our children. We are so much more than that. So let's talk about why and how it is we naturally stay stuck and we don't even realize it, and how amazing it is to be here in time and space at this time, being able to talk over the internet, right, and receive these lessons free of charge, I might add, and be awakened and enlightened to what's really going on, so that you can begin to tap into what it means to be a deliberate creator and manifest a different trajectory and really do it consciously. And I can speak with authority on this because not only have I done this personally in my own life, I've coached so many people professionally do it as well. So I'm not just talking out of my butt. I'm not talking out of my butt, as a matter of fact. This is true stuff. This works. So start seeing yourself, especially if you're down and out and you're depressed and you hate your life, okay? I want you to contemplate and ponder the idea and the fact that you are a vibrational being. That on a subatomic level, you are resonating with a specific frequency. Go a step further. I want you to understand that the universe keeps order by lining energies up. It's just the way it works with like energy. Study a magnet. It looks like that the opposites attract. Study a magnet and you'll understand that that's not what's happening. What's happening is we're looking to complete a circuit with a magnet, and that's why people get that confused. But know that like energy is always trying to complete a circuit, which means it's always trying to draw something into its experience that is like itself. So that means if you are resonating with depression, not your fault, but if you are not conscious and you are unaware, you're going to continue to attract energies of the past because that's all you know. That's all you know. So you're also a physical brain, right? So not that you are your brain. You are not your brain, actually. But the brain is a part of who you are. So you're multidimensional. So you have to understand that your brain likes patterns. Even if they suck, dear one, your brain likes patterns, right? Because the brain can only play with the tools that are in the shed. And the brain is all about patterns, right? Brain wave patterns, alpha, delta, gamma, beta. The brain loves patterns, okay? So whatever was downloaded into you before the age of 7, when you were in a hypnotic brainwave state, becomes your pattern. And the brain, now don't confuse the word like, oh, this is great. I married another alcoholic or another drug addict. Yeah, this is awesome. Oh, I married another cheater, another narcissist. This is just great. That's not what the brain is saying. What the brain is saying is, oh, this is familiar. Oh, this is familiar. Oh, this is familiar. I know how to navigate this because I've done it before, okay? It's sort of like, think about the reason that you go the same way to the mall all the time. It's familiar. It's comfortable. You know what exit to get off of, right? You don't deliberately break those patterns. I do suggest that you start doing that, however, because that'll help you long term. So the brain likes patterns, okay? So your brain also is more likely to recall trauma than stupid bullshit, In other words, like, where did I put my keys? Don't matter. What matters is who hurt you, when, and why. Now, why does that matter? Because your brain is designed to keep you safe. The brain is all about survival. In fact, the body is all about survival, right? The body is your best friend, right? You know, you pass out, your body's going to breathe for you. You fall down, somebody hits you in the head with a brick, your liver's still going to work. You chop your foot off, your kidneys are still going to work. It's like amazing. Your entire body, you know, you have a drug overdose, your body, your heart's, if you're lucky, your heart's going to still beat, right? Your lungs are going to still breathe. You're still going to exchange oxygenated blood with unoxygenated blood. It's just amazing what's going to happen. So in other words, you're built for survival. Now, your brain is going to recall trauma because it wants you to avoid it. Alice, wake up. Alice is dreaming. It wants, hi, Alice. It wants to, hello, Alice. Want to come say hello? Are you going to come in the camera? Come. No? Okay, go lay down. So you have to know that your brain is designed to recall trauma because it's trying to keep you safe. That's not your fault. So, but this is it. If you're unconscious, am I getting to the next point? Almost. So, but when we're unconscious, we don't know this is what's going on. We don't know that we're resonating a certain frequency on a subatomic level. We don't know that our physical brain likes patterns. Even if they're ridiculous, the brain likes patterns. So that brings me to the next point is you also have to understand that you are psychological. So you're not just vibrational. You're not just a physical brain. You're not just a physical body. You're psychological. You have an id. You have an ego. You have a superego, right? You have an id, which is that aspect of you that is has these instincts to survive and desires and needs. Then you have the ego that is constantly trying to mitigate the environment and with the needs of the id. So think about a 3-year-old who knows that his baby sister is crying, and he goes and he tries to get a bottle for the sister because he knows that the baby crying is going to piss mommy or daddy off, right? So that's, imagine the 3-year-old is acting like the ego to kind of like mitigate the needs of the id with the environment. The superego is really whatever's been downloaded into you by the authorities in your life and the influences in your life. So imagine you are a young girl who, you know, you're reaching for an extra scoop of ice cream, and mommy's super skin, and she's got an eating disorder perhaps, and you know she has her own issues with food, and she gives you a look like, and you know what the look means. The look means, how dare you, you pig? What are you gonna do? You're gonna stuff your face with ice cream now? You know, so that's mom transferring her issues onto her daughter just in one look over one scoop of ice cream. This is serious shit, okay? Because that wounds us, and that becomes part of our inner dialogue, part of our psychology, part of the voice and the narrative of the inner critic. You have to understand you're part psychological being as well. So you're also, talk about consciousness, dear one. It is what it is. We are unconscious as well as conscious. And we are 95% unconscious 95% of the time. So all those decisions that you think you're making, nope. Your brain or your subconscious mind is making those decisions. We are on autopilot. It is what it is. Would you have married? Maybe you're going to say yes. But if you're watching this video, chances are you're probably going to say no. But would you have married the person you married if you were conscious? If you knew that you were a vibrational being? If you knew that this is all about patterns, that life is a hologram? Would you have married that person? Would you have had that conversation that went into the shitter if you were conscious, if you knew that you were dealing with a narcissist who couldn't hear you? Okay, narcissists aren't listeners. They don't listen. They feel entitled to exploit people. That's what they do. They have no empathy. So if we were conscious, we wouldn't be doing these things. So you have to accept that until you wake up, you are unconscious as well as conscious. But the awesome thing is that that's a fact, which means that you can work on your state of consciousness. You can get out of the template. You can break the maze. You can create a new trajectory, which is so awesome. That's what I'm all about teaching you. You also have to understand, dear one, that there is a thing called mass consciousness. There is a consciousness of this planet, right? And even though we might not be aware of it, it affects us. Think about racism. You're not responsible for racism. Did you create racism? I surely didn't create racism. I am not responsible for racism. I'm not. But, you know, and all genocides and all this terrible, terrible, tragic stuff that has happened with humanity. You're not responsible for it, and neither am I, right? We don't have to participate in those old energies and that consciousness anymore, those lack mentalities. We don't have to participate in it, and we can actually create a new reality, right? And the new reality and the new earth, that all starts with us. Thank you, Eckhart Tolle. That starts with you. Before there can be a new experience of consciousness, somebody has to give birth to it, right? So that's what you're a part of. But I want you to know that there is a mass consciousness. So think about the way you feel about certain religions. Where did that come from? Think about how you feel about men or women. Where did that come from? Think about how you feel about people who have 3 Ferraris in their garage. Where did that come from? Where did that consciousness come from? Think about how you feel about money. Where did that come from? Where did these ideas come from? So we have to accept, think about how you feel about Trump or Hillary Clinton. Think about how you feel. Where did that come from? Because we have the media today and we have the internet, it is very simple and very easy to tap into mass consciousness. Now you have to be careful of what types of energies you're tapping into. Any energy that is lack is not an energy, in my opinion, we should be tapping into. That's just my opinion. I'm going to leave that there. I just want you guys to understand why it's so hard for us to get unstuck, because all of these things are going on inside of us all at the same time, and yet we think we are what our narcissistic husband just said we are. No, you're a lot more than that. Trust me. So now, you are emotional as well as logical. You know that you can figure out what bag to buy, right? Or you know that you can go to the grocery store and figure out what to buy for dinner and why. You know that you can say to your child, okay, no cookies until after dinner, or you know what, no cookies at all. How about an apple after dinner? You can be logical, right? But you can also be highly, highly emotional. And when you get triggered by the wonderful brain, you can be very, very emotional and lose all logic, okay? So dear one, we have to accept that we can be emotional and logical, right? The goal is to really balance out and become emotional and logical, right? But in a balanced state so that the emotions aren't overriding our ability to be logical. You want to be logical about your emotions, which means you have to have the ability to observe your emotions without being triggered into reacting to them, which has to do with the brain, the amygdala, and hippocampus, blah, 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 blah. So, you have to understand that there are energy centers in your body as well as outside your body. So you really exist in a field, even though you can't see the field. And you are a part of this field, right? So we do absolutely download emotions. Remember, emotions are energy in motion, right? And so, emotions are energy in motion. I hope I said that right. So emotions are energy in motion. So it's important that you realize that you are energy, right? And depending on what you're thinking, which really does greatly depend on what your belief systems are, which greatly depends on what's in your subconscious mind, which greatly depends on your childhood, which greatly depends on what happened with your mother and father in their childhoods and their mother and father, and so on and so on. So we have energy centers in our body. You must expand your perception of self for certain. You have to understand that your energy centers absolutely can get blocked. You could have a kink in your chakra system or your energetic system, your energy system, your neurological system. You could have a kink. You can experience gastritis, irritable bowel syndrome, cancers. It's very important that you acknowledge that when we are not flowing, when energy is not free flowing through our body, that we can get blocked. And when energy is blocked, our system is corrupt. It's not behaving, with the natural laws of the universe. Think about the earth. It's always revolving and the universe is always expanding. It's always about growth. It's always about moving forward. The universe, the earth doesn't take 2 steps back. I think I'm going to go the other way today. We don't experience that. The Earth goes in one direction, and as it does, it's picking up speed, by the way. And we know this because the distance between stars is expanding. So the universe is definitely picking up speed. So you know what? We have to stay in tune with that. Otherwise, we won't survive. Like, we will get sick and we won't survive. That's for another video. However, okay, so number 8. Dear ones, there is no such thing as separation. You have to understand you are a time traveler. What do I mean by that? I mean, everything is happening at the same time. But because of the way that mind works, and because of the way the ego works, and because this is a time-space reality, we don't understand that. And that's okay, because on Earth, things are slowed down, and I know that this is a couch, you know, and I know that I have to walk around the couch, not through the couch, because I might fall on my face and break my nose and break my teeth, right? So I need to understand this physical time-space reality in the here and the now. But in my humble opinion, I believe that we're all time travelers. So when I am in the now and my lovely husband says something to me in the same tone, right? And moves the same way, perhaps that my ex-husband moved or that my father moved, and he says something to me like as simple as, yeah, right. I will be brought back in time, because that's the way the brain works. The brain goes, I remember when that happened. It was a painful event. Remember, Lisa? Remember? But here's the thing. I might not have the memory. The hippocampus stores the memory. And for many, many reasons, right? It could be trauma, it could be denial, suppression, dissociation. My hippocampus may not have been matured when the event happened, right? I might not have the ability to attach this trigger to a memory. That's not my fault. Not my fault. The body works its own way, right? But what might happen is outside of my awareness, right? Because we're only 5% conscious, if that. I will feel viscerally. My body will flood with visceral information because it's been stored because I haven't learned to clear it yet. And it will flood my system. My sensory system will flood with the same types of feelings that occurred when I was being wounded the first time someone said, yeah, right. When they were really, really making fun of me, when I was maybe embarrassing me in front of a crowd or in front of a boyfriend or from some friends or whatever. I will not know that my visceral feelings are in relation to what happened in the past, in the now. And I will not know that that experience in the now is dictating my future. So now here, Anthony says something very innocent, but I'm in the past because I'm a time traveler, just don't know it. And I'm reacting to him in the now, you know, being very verbally abusive to him now because he pissed me off, right? That's backwards rationalization. I have to rationalize my behavior, good or bad, because the brain's a congruent tool. Boy, am I throwing a lot of shit at you today. I hope you're keeping up. Just take notes, rewind the tape, watch it again, I guess. But anyway, I digress. But anyway, so here I am in the now, reacting to him, and I'm unaware that I'm a vibrational being, and I am creating my future reality. So later on, Anthony and I aren't talking, and then he says something. Here we both go down the rabbit hole as a couple, and I'm recreating the past. I'm feeling abandoned, I'm feeling wounded, and I'm feeling alone. I'm feeling like no one cares about me, blah, 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 blah. So we're time travelers. So you have to expand your consciousness. You have to understand that you're more than what you think you are. The ninth thing is that you are man, and I also mean woman, but you are physical man, but you are also God self. You are, and those of you who have trouble with spirituality and don't think you're a spirit, okay, whatever. Lots of scientists don't believe in that. Whatever. I don't know. Something set us in motion. I find it really hard to believe that everything is by happenstance, like the colors of a peacock and the way it dances for the peahen. Like, seriously? Like, I was looking at a flower today. I'm like, you are just beautiful. Like, who is the master designer? And why do we need flowers anyway? Like, if human beings aren't supposed to be delighted, then why are there flowers? Why are there fragrances? You know, like, I know that they have to attract bees. Oh my God, I'm digressing again. I'm sorry, don't mean to do that. Anyway, getting back to number 9. So you are man, but you are also God source. So what I mean by that is you are Tom, you are Harry, you are Sarah, you are Jill, you are whoever you are, right? But you are also, don't take this the wrong way, you are also mom and dad. grandma and grandpa, aunts and uncles. You are everything and everything is you. You cannot separate yourself from your mother, nor can you separate yourself from the creator being or the entity or the infinite intelligence that created you. So yes, you're a physical being, right? And I don't care what your circumstances are. I don't care if you're in jail. I don't care if you've been dealing drugs, your entire life. I don't care if you're part of a gang. I don't care. The reality is that we all do what we do based on our experiences and based on what we believe and what we've been taught to believe about the self and society. And if I think that the world's a scary place and my mother and father are all about survival and I'm getting told that this is a terrible place and I'm being kicked in the face and abandoned by my mother and father, obviously I'm scrapping. I think everybody's out to get me and I'm in download mode and I have to protect myself. And if that means I have to hurt you to do it based on my experiences, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not saying I condone that behavior. I'm just saying that I can see how somebody who, came from a really, really crappy home environment, who never felt loved and never felt accepted and saw terrible things in their lifetime, and by the age of 5, have experienced hunger and sexual abuse and neglect and poverty and all sorts of abuse, different types of abuses, and they've lived with people who have taught them that you have to take advantage of people to get ahead, like life is hard and life sucks and people are going to screw you. And how many of us, I grew up with that. I grew up with my father telling me that the world is hard and people are terrible and everybody's looking to take advantage of everybody. You know why he said that? Because I hate to say it, my father felt entitled and my father had very little empathy for people. And that's the way my father believed the world was. And that's why my father is a frightened old man right now who doesn't know how to enjoy his life. And his grandchildren don't run to him. They want nothing to do with him because he's got such a lack mentality. That's why I have no relationship with him. But that's his perception. I can accept it. Doesn't mean I like it. I just, okay, based on his childhood programming and his experiences. And now I also know that my father vibrates at a certain frequency and he's going to attract into his experience that which he resonates with, whatever that means. And I'm not responsible for that. So, dear one, I hope this helps you understand that you are an amazing multidimensional being. And, we have to break through. We have to push past our limiting beliefs. We have to understand what happened to us as children. We have to understand how the brain works, right? And how the brain processes information and how the universe works and how we are not wired for recovery unconsciously. Recovery happens consciously. And that's a hard pill to swallow because so many of us try to save other people. And the reality is, I'm not a religious person at all, but there's infinite wisdom in the Bible, I have to say. The truth sets you free. Hurts like hell, but it will set you free. Ask and thou shalt receive. People that we try to save that aren't asking us for information can't be saved. So you can't save your narcissistic mother or your narcissistic sister. You can't save your alcoholic friend. You can't save your drug addicted, brother. You can't save them. You can lift them up in love and light. You can imagine them, in a different place, in a different time. You can not resonate with pity. You can raise your own consciousness up about this person and say, I refuse to see this person in that light. My husband has a friend who was diagnosed with some pretty serious illnesses. And I remember holding on to myself, talking to Anthony, because I could just feel like he was like going down the rabbit hole because he loves this man so much. And I held on to my energy and I held on to my own conscious understanding of his friend. And I said to myself in my head, I refuse to see him that way. I do not see him sick. I will not resonate with that frequency. And I go to bed at nighttime and I imagine his friend saying, everything's fine. The doctors don't know what's going on. My blood values are good. I'm not kidding you. That is what he is now repeating to us. Every time my husband calls him, he says, my values are good. They're not interested in doing chemotherapy. I'm holding my own. I'm not saying I did that. I'm just, oh my God. But what I am saying is that there is a benefit to not seeing people the way they are in this moment and seeing people from a different angle, from a different perception, and holding on to your vibration and seeing people the way you want to see them. And it takes consciousness. Unconscious people cannot do this. They're going to perceive people the way they've always perceived people. Think about your programming and what you've been taught to believe about people. And to heal the world, we must become conscious. You must become conscious and deliberate and accountable for your vibrations, what you're thinking, what you're speaking, and what your intentions are. So peel back the criticisms of other people. Peel back the criticisms of yourself. Try to do what you can to sit in love and light and understand that you're a multidimensional being. And the more you understand all the various levels of you, I didn't even go into the minerals that you are. I haven't even gone into that. But, you know, the proteins, blah, blah, blah. But my point is that if you can expand your awareness of self in terms of who you think you are and what you are, then you have an opportunity to break through the maze. You have an opportunity to not get so caught up. You begin to understand what you should be doing that is right. You start paying attention to your frequencies and your thoughts and your beliefs, and that's where you can start. So namaste, dear ones. It is my pleasure to come into your hearts and your homes today. I so hope that you check out my upcoming programs. Please follow me on Facebook and on Pinterest. I have a bunch of really cool things happening at the moment, and I'd love for you to take advantage of that and to just continue resonating higher and higher and higher. Because I'm going to tell you what, saving this world is going to be an inside job. It's going to be a grassroots job. And I get so excited about helping somebody, you know, break through, because I'm thinking about the future generations. I'm thinking about all the pain that we save the planet when one person heals, all the darkness that is just forever banished. And I think about the light that comes through when somebody heals. It's just really, really cool. So I love my job. So anyway, thanks for listening. Namaste. And like always, I bow to the eternal love and the eternal light that you absolutely are. Bye for now.